My name is Gracie Hayhurst, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the Rwandan Genocide. As many of you may know, over the course of 100 days between April and July of 1994, 800,000 innocent native Tutsi and moderate Hutus were massacred on Rwandan soil. Now, one might wonder how the various mechanisms of hatred became powerful enough to warrant the killing of almost 1 million clean hands in such a short period of time. However, the vast and brisk killings of these Rwandans' lives was only the result of centuries-long of hatred gaining traction and being put into physical action. Rwanda is a tribal nation comprised of 12 million people. Of this 12 million person demographic, 80% are the Hutu, 15% the Tutsi, and the remaining 1% the Twa and various other ethnic minorities. Up until 1895, an independent Tutsi monarchy ruled Rwanda. After 1895, Rwanda became a German province that eventually was handed over to Belgian control at the end of the First World War. European colonialists reinforced the existing Tutsi hierarchy. However, they made it even more extreme and turned it into an almost apartheid-like system, as we saw in South Africa. To make oppression even worse for the Hutu peoples, in 1926, the Belgian colonialists implemented ethnic identity cards. This policy of ID cards overwhelmingly benefited the Tutsi and marginalized their Hutu rivals in every aspect of day-to-day life. Clearly, the Hutu were oppressed people. Through the decades, as inequality became more pervasive, the Hutu resentment of the Tutsi people began to rise. During the 1950s and early 1960s, many Hutus began to seek independence from colonial rule. With this move towards independence came many Hutu-led riots, killing more than 20,000 Tutsis. Due to fear of persecution, many Tutsis sought refuge in the neighboring countries of Burundi, Tanzania, and Uganda. Finally, in 1962, the fight for independence was won and a power reversal occurred. The Hutus were now in charge. The Tutsis were at the hands and mercy of the Hutus. Now, it might be easy to point fingers and automatically blame the colonial rule for the problem that happened in Rwanda in 1994. However, it must be understood that a schism between the Hutu and Tutsi existed long before a white man stepped on foot. As the author of The Shadow of the Sun says, the relations between the Tutsis and the Hutus were authentically feudal. The Tutsi was the lord, the Hutu was his vassal. The Hutus lived by cultivating the land. They gave a portion of their harvest to their masters in exchange for the use of a cow. The Tutsi had a monopoly on cattle. The Hutus could only lease them. Everything according to the feudal order, the dependence, the customs, the exploitation. In the events leading up to genocide, the economic situation of Rwanda became increasingly dismal. The Tutsi peoples felt the economic downfall heavily, as only 9% of available jobs were allocated to them under the new ethnic quota system. Additionally, in response to the oppression by the Hutu majority on the Tutsi, many Tutsis in exile in neighboring African countries and moderate Hutus formed the Rwandan Patriotic Front, an attempt to reduce the disparity amongst the two tribes by creating a power-sharing agreement with Hutu President Habyarimana. In October of 1990, RPF rebels raided Rwanda in the hopes of achieving such an agreement. However, they were heavily opposed by the standing and well-equipped Rwandan military, and a 3-year civil war followed. After the 3-year civil war, the RPF achieved what they wanted. There was a power-sharing agreement between the Hutu and Tutsi through the signing of the Arusha Accords. However, peace was only short-lived, and in 1994, President Habyarimana's plane was shot down. While there is still uncertainty as to who exactly shot the plane down, blame was automatically placed on the Tutsi. Now, the shooting down of the president's plane ultimately was the ultimate catalyst for propelling the genocide into full swing. It gave the Hutus the perfect opportunity to really increase the hatred towards the Tutsis. But beyond placing blame on the gunning down of the plane of the president, the Hutus also increased hatred towards the Tutsis by effective propaganda. On many radio stations, they referred to the Tutsis as cockroaches that must be killed. As with any genocide and act of horror, the intention of the perpetrator is always interesting to note. Obviously, the genocide was not carried out through one neurotic and hate-consumed soul. Rather, the genocide was accomplished through the collective efforts of thousands of people. The Hutu extremists followed in the likes of the Nazi executioners before them. They were both absolutely paralyzed in fear at the thought of their martyrs gaining power or influences. The massacres were implemented in an act of self-defense. The Rwandan genocide serves as a perfect case study as the power of words and hate speech. In the future, we should seek to reduce hate speech without infringing upon free speech in order to create a world without genocide.